Okay, my friends, here it is. The video that is a little bit embarrassing to make. So hopefully you can learn from my rookie mistake that I just made. It's the first week of April here in zone 5/6, northern Indiana, and we have got all of the onions planted. Everything's going along fine. The sun is shining, everything's nice and warm, and we're all happy. We're getting a jump on the season. We got things hardening off. We're pulling them out of the grow tent in the basement. Everything's going along fine. And then all of a sudden, disaster strikes. And so I'm going to take you out into the garden, and I'm going to show you what has happened and how you can prevent it, okay? How you must prevent it, how it's a rookie mistake that I made. And then I'll bring you back inside so that you can see the grow tent and you can see another sort of rookie mistake that I made that I can't believe. But I will show you exactly with the tomatoes what has happened and what I did to fix it and what you can do to fix it as well. So let us get into it. Okay, my friends, here it is. So we are out here in the garden. It is the first week of April here in zone 5/6, northern Indiana. And we are going to start with the good stuff first and progressively get to the horrible, tragic stuff. So first thing is these Ishikura green onions. Now these are really cold hardy. I've grown green onions many times in the past and I'm just over having to weed everything. So we're doing this landscaping fabric. At least for the first year, we're going to do it like this. We've got our watering system underneath the fabric, and so they're going to do just fine. Another thing that's doing just fine is the chives. And the chives, remember guys, we tilled up the whole garden and redid everything. I just took each patch, each clump of chives and split them with a spade into like 4 or 5 different little sections and planted them, and they're all thriving now. So here we are at the onions, and these are the Rosa di Milano onions, a delicious red onion. We just planted them. Now you can see here that I didn't trim them this year. This is the first year I didn't trim the onions. So they're a little bit top heavy, which I'm not so wild about, but we'll see. We'll see how they end up doing. Now you can see here I'm using the boards again, but I'm not using it in the same way. You see, this here is like a perfectly planted onion right there. This one is a little bit leaning over, but it will right itself up, no problem. So I'm using the boards more as weed suppression this year, just because I didn't need them in the same way I did last year, because using no-till, the ground was so hard I couldn't dig in there for the onions. So now I'm using it mostly for weed suppression, but they're going to be just fine, as you will see here in a couple of weeks and months. Now we're at the garlic, and guys, this is the Turkish red garlic I got from ufseeds.com, Urban Farmer Seeds, located in Indianapolis. And this stuff is one of my favorites. Really nice and pungent. Look, this little guy loves the garden as well. So the garlic is popping up through about 6 to 8 inches of straw. I know, it's crazy, but it will come up through a more straw than you think that it possibly could. But that's going to help to keep it all nice and moist. And we got them Viking granular nutrients applied in the spring. Now here is the multiplier onions, guys. Remember, this is different than walking onions, different than green onions. It's more like a shallot type thing. Classic multiplier onions. So we're going to walk over now to the bed where we have the parsley and the celery, and this is only like 4 days old. We only planted this stuff like 4 days ago, and you can see most of it is doing pretty good. It's looking pretty healthy. There's a little bit of sun bleaching going on, but as we'll progressively move, and you'll see that there is definitely some cold damage. It only got down to 30 degrees the other night, which you see here, this is totally killed by the cold. And so, but there's a lot of the plant that's still looking pretty good. So here we have to assess. We have to see, is it worth, do we have to like try and replant? But this part is definitely killed by the cold. That is sun bleaching mixed with frost damage, and it's just really struggling to adapt to the outside. This part is obviously never coming back. That's classic frost damage, and it only got down to 30. But here's the thing, guys. Here is why we're not going to be super concerned, is because the new growth down in the center is nice and vibrant and healthy. So the root system survived no problem. It's all looking pretty good. Now here we've got the giant red celery that we're growing this year. It definitely got some frost damage. But again, look at that center. It's nice and vibrant. The plant is still totally alive. I'm not going to be concerned about that. Eventually, I'll probably cut that off, but for now, it's all looking pretty decent. Now, these ones in the back that I'm going to show you got hit pretty hard, okay? So these ones got hit pretty hard by the frost. But even those, if we go around and we take a closer look, we can see that while the part on the board is never coming back, the center is still vibrant. And so the plant is still alive. It's still perfectly fine. That part's not, but the center is still, and the root zone is still totally intact. So we're not going to panic. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to let it grow. Now, one thing that is a total disaster, look at this tray of beets that was left out. It is a total disaster. I was starting up the beets because I had great success doing it all last year. But I forgot that these were outside. That's the rookie mistake. I would have brought them in, but it only got down to 30. But man, the whole tray is just pretty much wiped out. I see some of it is still growing actually, which is surprising. So I'm not sure. Guys, do you think I should replant or should, later in the year, in the fall, these beets can easily take 30 degrees, but in the springtime, they're just too delicate. Look at that. That's just a nightmare. That's so sad to see for me. Another thing that I forgot was out here was this tray of greens, mixed greens. Here is the Yod Fa, which is actually a really good summertime green. And they are frost hardy. In the fall time, they can take 28 degrees, no problem, 25 even. But in the springtime, a little 30 degrees pretty much wiped them out. This one is doing fine. There's a couple of them that are doing, okay. They're still alive. But I think I'm going to start over, which is really unfortunate, and any of you other gardeners know how disheartening this can be. It can be very disheartening. Look at that tiny little thing. Even though the center is still alive, that's sad looking. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that exactly. I'm probably just going to restart all of that. One thing though, this cilantro didn't even skip a beat. The cilantro just laughs at the cold. It thrives in the cold, not a problem. So did most of this butter crunch lettuce right next to it. But even it got slightly hit by the 30 degrees. But definitely the Yod Fa is looking sad, also known as gailan. Now here is some arugula, and it definitely is root bound in these tiny little pots, but we can see here that it's still growing fine. So we're going to take these little trays, these little plugs, and we're going to plant them out probably today. Now notice this, guys. Here is the parsley that did not go through the shock of being transplanted. It did not skip a beat. There's no frost damage on this parsley because it didn't go through the trauma of being transplanted, and it perfectly survived. So the ones in the pots did just fine. Okay, so now here we are down in the grow tent in the basement, and we've got the tomatoes. Now I want you to notice what is happening with the tomatoes here. They've got lime green sort of interior, sort of leaves. They've got purple stems. This is classic deficiency of phosphorus and also magnesium. Now, even though all those elements are present in plentiful supplies, the reason is because here, I took the tomatoes off of the heat mat about 10 days ago. And once I took them off the heat mat, I didn't realize that the soil temps was actually 50 degrees in the basement. 50 degrees is way too cold for tomatoes. I just didn't realize once I took them off the heat mat that it plummeted. And so they cannot absorb the proper phosphorus and magnesium and stuff when the soil temps are that cold. And so I put them back onto the heat mat, all right? And so instead of 50 degree soil, which is a total nightmare, these peppers were not happy as well. So I put them all back onto the heat mat, set it for 80 degrees, and that keeps it about 73. They're gonna love this. So I will show you guys the update in next week's video, and you will see how much they bounce back just in that time frame. Also, check it out, guys. We got 10 blueberry bushes, and at the Viking North plot this year, we're doing an experimentation. 5 of them are going to be planted in just Indiana clay soil with organic matter, and the other 5 is going to be properly pH'd with the Viking granular nutrients. And we're going to get to the bottom of the whole blueberry pH thing with a living example. So stay tuned for that stuff. And guys, the season is coming. Get ready. It's going to be an awesome season. So there you go, guys. What do you think? Are the beets going to come back? Is the Yodfa going to come back? Some of it looks like it is. Should I replant, or should I just hope that that whole tray is going to go along? Because I don't have that many more pots, because we got to start up the marigolds, the sunflower. We're starting up everything downstairs. And guess what? Next week, we've got even colder temperatures coming. Look at this. We've got 34 and 25, 24. And on the other app, it actually says 22 degrees Fahrenheit. So we got that coming. So I cannot let this other stuff get decimated, because that was only at 30 degrees that all of that happened. And remember, just because these things are cold hardy at the end of the year, once they're full size, the seedlings are much more delicate, obviously. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Guys, if you want to get you some of this Viking granular fertilizer, then go ahead and go to gardenlikeaviking.com. You can get some. It's all that the plants need. It's a total nutrition source for all season long. 2 of these 40-pound buckets will do my entire garden for the whole season. So you can plan accordingly. If you want some, I still got some left. Hit up gardenlikeaviking.com. It's a 1-part, all plants, all season. That's it. Also, make sure you join us this Saturday at 12 noon Eastern Time for the live Q&A right here with special guest Gary Pilarczyk from The Rusted Garden. Yes, many of you know him. He is going to be on the show this weekend, so make sure that you tune in for that. I will see you there, my friends.